At 19, I was unemployed, smoking weed daily, and completely directionless while my friends were in college. Fast forward, I built a $2 million agency, hired a CEO, and stepped back completely. But here's what no one tells you about scaling to $100,000 months. The biggest mistake that I made wasn't in the first year when I had no clients. It was at $50,000 a month when I thought I had it all figured out. And look, I'm not here to sell you some course about crushing it online. I'm the guy who worked construction for $16 an hour in a lead containment bridge 100 feet above water, just what felt like a few years ago. I swept floors with colleagues who were on jail leave. My family got evicted from our apartment when I was growing up. Money was always a negative topic in our house, and my brother struggled with drug addiction. And college wasn't even considered an option in my head. I built this agency from my apartment to over 25 team members, multiple studios, and last year I hired a CEO so that I could step back entirely. And we've generated over $5 million in total sales since founding, but the path wasn't what you think. Let me paint you the full picture of where I started. At 19, I was living with my dad because I'd run out of money while my friends were in college, and I thought that I could just stay with them and that would just give me that lifestyle. I was basically just drinking excessively, smoking weed daily, and literally had zero direction. I was what you'd call masking something and had zero vision for my life. My first job was as a commercial painter, working with people fresh out of jail and literally people on jail leave. So people were literally still in jail. Then I worked at a call center Monday through Friday while selling literally energy drinks at Costco on weekends. I was paying for criminal justice classes, thinking the fastest track for me was becoming a police officer so that I could retire early and really just feel comfortable and secure. But everything changed when I met the company founder at the call center that I was working for. The company was an e-commerce company. This guy took interest basically in the way I worked and wanted to build a relationship with me, so we became friends, and he eventually sold his company to Lowe's for hundreds of millions of dollars. And at 20 years old, he told me something that literally changed my life forever. He said, "I think you're capable of more than you think you are." And no one had ever said that to me before. Coming from someone far more successful than me, a similar background, it stuck with me. That's when I basically decided to abandon the idea of becoming a police officer. That's when I realized maybe there is more for me despite my lack of credentials or college degrees or whatever it could be. Then I discovered people like Gary Vee and Ed Mylett through podcasts while working at the call center. They kind of just became my virtual mentors. Messages like, "You can do more than you think you can. There's massive opportunity out there for you." I learned the power of having a mentor and having just really solid inputs. Because the reality is you're going to reflect what you consume. So I made a huge lifestyle change. I moved from the call center to business development to doing sales at an NBC affiliate in Seattle, selling TV advertising in my first 100% commission role, basically eating what I could kill. And I became one of their top performers, earning my first 6 figures at the age of 21. But Gary Vee's message, "Do what you love," led to my first real entrepreneurial attempt. I quit my stable 6-figure job to pursue real estate, zero income, zero promised income, and I moved into a friend's spare bedroom to just cut all expenses. And this was right after I had also met my future wife at Starbucks. I saw this beautiful girl studying. I was too nervous to talk to her. I left the Starbucks, then was in my car just kind of like talking myself into it. Turned around, went back into the Starbucks and just told her she was beautiful. And fast forward, she's now my #1 supporter through this crazy journey. And as I was growing my business, I leveraged social media to build my personal brand. I became known as the real estate guy who's really good at social media. And after about 2.5 years doing that, I realized I just didn't love opening doors for people. I was working 24/7 with open houses all the weekends, and I was basically just bound to the clients. And also real estate was very location dependent and just a little bit too competitive. And here's where it gets interesting. While I was in real estate, people kept asking me for help with their social media. I was creating videos and content, and others wanted to know how I was doing it. So I started helping people for free initially. I didn't even know what marketing agency actually was when I first started. And I met someone who was actually monetizing their services. That's when I started basically charging for what I was doing while I was selling real estate on the side. I remember sitting down with a lot of people, they would think to themselves and they would tell me, "This model won't work. I'm just not sure it's scalable. That sounds like a really tough business model." But I decided to just go on anyway. I left real estate in 2017 to focus solely on the agency services. And as I was just starting, I became what people call a yes man. I was doing videos, website, photos, graphics, whatever you needed, I would do it just if you will pay me to do it. I would work weekends, work basically bound to the client schedule because I was worried about missing an opportunity or having that person work with somebody else. And I was doing this all from my apartment, basically working 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. I lost a lot of friends. I didn't have any hobbies. I didn't have any community. I was pretty much an employee of 5 different clients. I was juggling a ton of services for way too many clients, handling everything personally with absolutely just no delegation. And despite making good money because it's 100% profit because it's all me, I could literally see no end in sight of just not being on the hamster wheel of just doing everything. In 2019 was my breaking point year. I realized I needed to work myself out of this business and not just keep doing everything myself. But what I had to overcome outcome was my fear of delegating because I didn't trust people and I wanted to control everything in the process of what I was doing because I thought I was the best at what I could do. And I made my first hire to reclaim 20 hours weekly. Every Saturday, what I would do is I would go to a coffee shop and work all day on systems and processes. I got a mentor who helped me realize that my current model was just completely unscalable. The real realization for me hit me like a truck. I realized that business isn't about how much I could work. Business is about creating a model that can grow with systems, people, and predictability. So I developed standardized packages and a clear offer. And I said, we're just going to stick to these packages and that's what we're going to be selling going forward. I stopped being everything to everyone. I created a repeatable process for delivery. And at that same time, that's when I met Mark through my Bible study group. And Mark was basically a really ambitious person and wanted to start a business at some point. So what I did while he was working his full-time job was I hired him part-time, and then he eventually transferred to full-time. And Mark took over all of the fulfillment operations. We moved into a 2-bedroom apartment together to cut costs. And this partnership became the turning point in our business's growth. Locally, we became the go-to people for social media and video work. Our first year with preset packages, we tripled our business and hit $750,000. We grew to a team of just 5 people through systematic hiring and hiring the right people. But here's what actually changed everything. It wasn't about working harder. It wasn't the better marketing. It was shifting my identity from being an operator doing everything myself to an actual CEO. I remember the exact day I stopped going to video shoots. Mark was handling everything. Clients were happy. Quality was the same. I was able to take breaks without having to check emails or check in with people. And for the first time in 3 years, I had a Saturday where I wasn't glued to my computer. And that's when I knew we were building something real. And at that time, we realized that we needed an official space to legitimatize our business. So getting our first office was basically a public commitment to our growth and what we were doing in business. We made that a big deal publicly from a branding perspective. And after getting the office space, we doubled our revenue. And just a year later, we expanded to a second studio. We built a leadership structure with defined roles. Mark evolved to handle operations and fulfillment. Peter grew from contract videographer to being a creative director. And we built teams under each leader for service teams for service delivery so that I was no longer the bottleneck. And I recognized that our most important client wasn't the person that was paying us invoices. It was actually our team, the person that I was paying. So we created systems to equip our team with resources for them to actually succeed. And some people grew with us and some people didn't. And that's just really part of the process. And now let me break down our actual trajectory. So the first year with systems, we tripled from $250,000 to $750,000 in annual revenue. After getting our office space, we doubled to around $1.5 million. The following year, reached around $2 million. We hit our first $200,000 in monthly revenue. We generated over $5 million in total sales since founding. But the real transformation wasn't just financial. The real win was getting my life back. That's what $100,000 per month actually gives you when you build it right. Not just money, but time freedom. And I started seeing this pattern with other agency owners. And we began helping agencies implement the exact systems that we did. And with that, Dylan went from doing $3,000 a month to over $100,000 a month just 2 months after implementing our framework. And Santiago generated $91,000 in a single week using our sales approach. And Cameron closed a $166,000 retainer in just a couple of weeks. And Juliana went from doing $1,700 to over $15,000 in just 4 weeks. The pattern was clear. It wasn't just about working harder, it was about working systematically. But here's what I wish somebody told me when I was doing $20,000 a month. There are 3 critical mistakes that keep agency owners stuck. Mistake number 1 is you can't delegate your way out of a bad offer. I see agency owners trying to hire their way out of chaos. But if your offer isn't productized and profitable, more people just means more complexity. We helped Zach Wood go from 1 paying client making $4,000 a month to over $50,000 per month in recurring revenue. And the first thing that we fixed was not his team, was not his marketing, it was his offer. Mistake number 2 is you can't systematize chaos. I spent months trying to build systems around custom work. Every client wanted something different. Every project was a one-off. Systems don't work when every process is unique. Look, we helped Matt go from being a freelancer to $50,000 per month. And the breakthrough was standardizing the packages that delivered consistent outcomes. Mistake number 3, you can't hire your way out of not knowing who you serve. The biggest mistake I made in year 2 was hiring before I knew exactly who my ideal client was. I hired people to serve everyone instead of hiring specialists to serve someone specific. Ian cut 75% of his clients, but achieved 3 times the growth to $60,000 a month. And sometimes less is more when you know exactly who you're built to serve. And after helping over 500 agencies scale past 6 figures, I've identified 3 pillars that every $100,000 a month agency has. Pillar number 1 is a productized offer that creates predictable income. The offer needs to solve a specific problem for a specific type type of client in a specific way. We call this the irresistible offer formula, and it addresses specific pain points and delivers measurable ROI. Look, Dylan's breakthrough came when he stopped doing custom video work and started offering a systematic content that actually created results for clients, and $100,000 per month followed him in just 60 days. Pillar number 2, systems that run without you. Talking about complete infrastructure for scaling. Client onboarding that happens with one click. Team members who know exactly what to do without you telling them. Processes that work even when you're not there. We call this the agency operating system. It's built on Notion and becomes the system that drives your business forward. Look, Cameron was able to double his revenue to $1 million annually and expand his team from 2 to 7 employees using these exact systems. He closed a $275,000 deal with 92% profit margin because his system allowed him to price per profit and be efficient and not just survive with that type of contract. Pillar number 3, authority-based client acquisition. Not cold calling, not networking events, not hoping for referrals, content that positions you as the obvious choice in the market. We call this the authority funnel. Simple ads that prompt people to DM you and content that builds trust before they even get on a call with you. Alex spent $500 and in 2 weeks got 40 DMs, booked 7 calls, and signed 3 new clients for $6,000 per month combined. Raphael generated $12,000 in just 2 weeks using this exact approach, and this is what we teach inside of Agency U. Here's what I want you to understand. These aren't overnight successes. Each agency owners went through the same 4 phases that I went through: survival mode, yes man phase, the breakthrough, and true freedom. But the difference is that they had a roadmap. They didn't have to figure it out through years of trial and error like I did. They implemented proven systems from day one, and that's exactly what's possible for you. And look, I need to be honest with you about something. The cost of not taking action isn't just financial, it's personal. I remember being so burnt out that I was making sales calls while we were on vacation. That's not entrepreneurship, that's addiction to being needed. I see agency owners working weekends, missing their kids' games, responding to clients at 11 p.m. They tell me things like, I feel overwhelmed and don't know if I'm overstaffed or if my systems are just not in order. If I had 2 more clients, it would break me. I go to bed with a plan, but I wake up and my brain turns off and I just start fighting fires. I don't know how to automate my business. This isn't the life you started a business to create. You didn't leave your 9 to 5 to create a prison you can't escape. You started something that serves your life, not consumes it. Here's what I know to be true after building this and helping over 500 other agencies do the same. Your agency can hit $100,000 per month. You can have time freedom. You can build a team that executes without you, but only if you're willing to make the identity shift from being an operator working in your business all the time to a CEO overseeing and running the business. Only if you're willing to say no to custom work that doesn't fit your systems. Only if you're willing to invest in proven frameworks instead of trying to figure out alone. Inside of Agency U, we don't just give you theory. We give you the exact operating system that we use to build our $2 million agency. You get unlimited one-to-one calls with our team. You get the complete agency operating system built for you inside of Notion. You get the authority funnel that eliminates cold outreach forever. You get the irresistible offer that turns commoditized services into premium solutions so you can finally charge more. And you get access to our community of hundreds of agency owners who are implementing these same systems in their business. Most importantly, you get the identity shift framework that transforms you from overwhelmed operator to a confident CEO. Look, if you're doing $10,000 to $50,000 a month, but you're feeling like you're hitting a ceiling, if you're working 60-hour weeks and still can't take a real vacation and be present on it, if you know you're capable of more, but you don't have a clear roadmap to get there, I want to help you build what I built. Not just the revenue, but the freedom, the ability to take your daughter to Disneyland on a Tuesday while your team handles everything. The confidence that comes from knowing your business doesn't depend entirely on you being there and you being the bottleneck. The link is in the description, but more importantly, stop building yourself a job that you cannot escape and start building a business that serves the life that you actually want. But you need the right roadmap, you need the right systems, and you need the right support. That's exactly what Agency U provides. I'll see you on the inside.